Having been a one-man team for a few years now, Max Verstappen has experienced the highest of highs and some pretty plummeting lows during his time with Red Bull. His 4 World Championships and 3 Constructors are a testament to his prowess and capabilities, especially in one of the greatest cars of all time designed by the greatest designer. However, that was then and this is now, and the future at Red Bull is looking unsteady to say the least. A new teammate who is limited on experience, a new engine program built on the bones of their previous collaboration with Honda, and a near-constant state of unrest behind the scenes all make for pretty uncomfortable existence when you're at the top of the pile, but there is the potential that that is no longer where Max will reside. The Constructors' Championship for this coming season is almost guaranteed to be an absolute banger, and the drivers to suit, with 4 teams looking capable of fighting throughout the season, and we're sure that Max won't be slowing down in 2025. 2026, however, is a different story entirely, and the new regulations threaten to send Red Bull back to the dark ages as they discover the trials and tribulations of engine design, which is something that doesn't always go to plan, just ask Renault. With the future unclear and Max already showing his disdain for Red Bull's incapabilities last year, a year in which he won a championship pretty much on his own, just how long until Max Verstappen decides to take his future into his own hands? Want to know where Max could end up if he decides to walk away from Red Bull? The future is anything but secure for the Milton Keynes team, and unless he retires entirely, they may have to watch their star man win in someone else's machinery. So Red Bull is certainly having to juggle an awful lot at the moment, aren't they? Well, one of their major points of pressure over the past couple of years is the lack of second driver presence in both championships. The Constructors being lost thanks to Checo's malperformance was clearly a tough pill for the team to swallow, but according to Christian Horner, they didn't want to hire too potent of a replacement to disrupt the hierarchy within the team, that hierarchy being Max above all else. When asked if Lawson has been signed to complement Max Verstappen, Horner responded, "Absolutely. If you liken it to football, you can't have 2 elite centre forwards. You've got to have strength and depth in your team. I think that Liam, with the experience that he has coming into the team, is there to provide that strength and depth in what we need from an engineering perspective, from a tactical perspective, because it's going to be tight next year. You've got Ferrari that will have Lewis and Charles, 2 very strong drivers. You've got Lando and Oscar at McLaren. We're perhaps slightly different to other teams where we go, do you know what? Max Verstappen is the most valuable asset in Formula 1. He's our lead driver. If you can get close to him, fantastic. But the reality is, the expectation is for Max to win. Different teams have different approaches." Other than the fact that Christian Horner clearly doesn't know ball, it's clear that Red Bull are going to do everything they can to keep Verstappen as comfortable as possible throughout a troubling patch. But it's hard to imagine that 100% of their efforts will be successful. Lawson could prove to be a real threat, the engine program could fail, or he may just get sick of the constant war of personalities behind the scenes between Horner and the other higher-ups, or Horner and his dad, or Horner and anyone with a pulse. So what exactly could happen if Max decides he is done with Red Bull? Well, there are 3 probable options. The first is Max walks away from the sport entirely, as he's already made it clear that he doesn't like the sound of the new regulations and is sick of the constant media bombardment. But what if he decides his days of winning championships aren't finished? Well, that leaves him 2 more likely options. The first, and I'd argue less likely outcome, is that Toto Wolff's dream finally comes true and Max ends up at Mercedes. But why is that less likely, you may ask? Well, it comes down to the fact that Mercedes may have 2 drivers that are simply impossible to replace. The young and exciting Andrea Kimi Antonelli is someone that Toto Wolff is backing with full fervor, and he will be given all the time that he needs to bed into the team, outside the possibility that he wins the Constructors' Championship single-handedly. A pretty impressive F2 season after Prema remembered how cars work was exactly what he needed to prepare himself for the rapid rise he experienced to F1, having skipped F3 and only had the single season in F2. The pressure will certainly be on for the young Italian, with the team now seeming to be capable of fighting for championships once more. But it's realistically his teammate that will bear the brunt of the pressure. And that brings us to Russell, who is the more likely driver to be replaced, but having the second half of the season that he had in 2024 gives us the impression that he won't be giving Wolff the opportunity to do so. He's proven that he can win races in a mature and controlled manner, and not only that, he has demonstrated that he can play nicely with a teammate, while also demanding a high level unless said teammate wants to be dominated. He's the de facto leader in Mercedes now, and will be looking to cement that as an indisputable fact this coming year. If all goes to plan, then the time when Verstappen could have found a home at Mercedes will have passed him by. But that brings us on to the more likely option, and that is Aston Martin. The big stopping point is the fact that Aston already have a top-tier driver in Fernando Alonso and an immovable object in Lance Stroll, but there's only so long both of these factors will stay in place if the likes of Max Verstappen comes knocking. But why would he, I hear you ask? Aston have just come off the back of a pretty honking year, right? Well, Adrian Newey's influence is yet to be felt, and the Honda engine program that will be taking its position, along with the massively underrated influence that Andy Cowell will have, could all be game-changing. After all, it was for Red Bull, right? These three factors will be taking place and reaching their full potency in 2026, and that is something which, according to Ted Kravitz, near guarantees title competitiveness in the coming years. It changes everything in Formula 1 for Aston Martin and the future of the drivers. We are sat on the land previously owned by Eddie Jordan at the Silverstone factory. Jordan is Newey's manager and has done wonders in negotiations. It is seismic. It's not as simple as saying Newey has signed for the team that used to be Jordan. What a team, what a facility, what an investment, what prospects it has. With Newey on board, they will be championship challengers in 2 years' time, maximum 3 years. That is seismic for Formula 1. But other teams will have their own benefits too, and as much as the benefits at Aston Martin are familiar to Max, that doesn't mean that he will just leave his comfortable position at Red Bull. But as soon as that situation becomes more uncomfortable, the factors that are aligned at Aston, as well as the nature of the man at the helm of the team, Lance Stroll, will become unignorable. Stroll is known for demanding the best, and that includes his drivers, or rather driver, and that means that if he knows the team, car and engine package are capable of winning by 2026 or 27, then he'll want to seal the deal by having the best driver in the car to do so. Max is proven and undisputable at this point, and Lawrence's pockets are near endless, as well as the fact that he holds some pretty valuable assets competitively in Newey, Cowell and Honda, which will be hard for Max to overlook. Alonso will of course be sticking around in the hopes that he can be the one to herald the team to victory, but he will be 45 by the time that Newey's first car design will be hitting the track. Whether age does slow him down or not, having a Max Verstappen that still has years of his prime ahead of him immediately puts close to that argument, especially seeing as Alonso has made it clear that he is taking his career contract by contract at this point. Max has continuously stated that he is happy at Red Bull and has made it clear that he will be going for a 5th title in 2025. However, all the factors at the beginning of the video getting resolved positively is a huge task for Red Bull, but the engine program alone will likely decide whether Max's gaze can be turned. He has already proven that he can fight for championships alone and deal with teammates. He's already shown that internal politics are under him, but dealing with a slow car that cannot be improved? Well, that's something that Max Verstappen simply cannot accept. But what do you think? Could Max be wearing different colors in the coming years? We think it's entirely possible, but not something we'll see until at least 2027. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching.